So I wanted to share a little bit today about what I've noticed with a lot of my clients, an awful lot of my clients at the moment, and they're asking the same question, like, is it just me? The impact that this is having on me, the increased anxiety, the increased chewing, the inability to relax, the second guessing everything that I'm doing, is it just me? And often before they get to that question, they get to well, maybe it is just me and that means I'm broken, or maybe it is just me and that means I'm a bit crazy, or maybe it is just me and that means I'm just not coping. And I want to say here and now, it is not just you. What is going on for us in the world right now is having a massive impact on everybody. And if it's not, I would be really surprised. Like, I think that was a bit odd to be able to partition this away. I've got clients that are managing to work from home and they are challenged and distressed about what's going on around them in that relationship. And I've got people who can't work from home, who are homeschooling, who are challenged and stressed on this is whole new stuff. And it's really difficult for them. And I've got clients who are carrying on as normal in whatever way, shape or form that looks like, but they're aware that normal is different for everybody around them. And that's quite difficult. And I think about it a bit like there's a lovely sporting analogy. I've been watching The Last Dance on Netflix, which has been all about Michael Jordan and the basketball story that, you know, the greatest player ever to have played the game kind of thing. And there's a lovely sporting analogy from basketball that I think works really well from this. When we think about anxiety and we think about what goes on in our inner world and what goes on in our outer world. And I think, so in basketball, this is the thing called a 4-point play. So the way a basketball game normally works is one team goes down one end of the court and they score 2 points. And the other team comes back and they score 2 points. And the first team goes back and they score 2 points. And the second team comes back and they score 2 points. And the game goes, right hand's got the upper hand, left hand catches up. Right hand's got the upper hand, left hand catches up. Right hand's got the upper hand, left hand catches up. So in a 4-point play, this team goes down the other end of the court, doesn't score. This team gets the ball back and they score. So instead of it going up two, it's gone up none, up 2. And now the momentum's changed in the game. This is a net 4-point gain for this team. And it's a momentum shift, a massive momentum shift in the game. And I think that's what's happened a bit because of the lockdown. So if we think inner world, outer world, inner world, outer world, inner world might have messages like, well, you better be productive to be okay, or you better be a good mum to be okay. And outer world goes, well, I'll do all these things, like I'll book in all these meetings, or I'll arrange all these calls, or I'll go and make all these sales visits or what have you, or I'll make sure my kids get their shoes cleaned before they go to school, or I'll make sure that my kids do their homework that they get from school, you know. And so we do stuff in our outer world that kind of calms down the voices in our inner world. And because we keep doing these things, we keep the game going with the upper hand going because of the things that I do in my outer world. I keep all this calm. Take away all the stuff that you can do in your outer world, and it's a massive 4-point play. Now, the inner world has lost all of the things that we do in our outer world, or the vast majority of things that we do in our outer world, to calm us and give us a sense of coping in the world. And the voices in the inner world can now get louder and fill even more space that's been created. And it's really discombobulating, and it's really challenging, and it's really hard work to kind of hang on to a sense of normality, because normal has changed. So you're not alone in that. If that's how you're feeling, you're not at all. And then 10 days ago, when Boris announces that you can kind of go out and return to normal, but we kind of want you to be alert, and we're not quite sure what we're saying, and you can see one parent but not another parent, and you can meet in a park but you can't meet in a garden, and all this sort of stuff. It's like on this basketball court that we're trying to make sense of, someone's thrown in an American football, which is completely the wrong shape and doesn't belong in the game at all, because the game thus far has been about not getting the disease. And now what Boris has thrown in, or as we try to lift the lockdown, because I don't want to make this exclusively about Boris Johnson, but he's the guy in charge at the moment, as we try to return to some sense of normality without a vaccine or a cure or herd immunity, we are trying to get the economy going and return to normal life whilst the threat of you getting coronavirus is still out there. And I notice another thing for my clients, which is the more the inner world voices creep up and the outer world dissipates and the distress builds up, I think what my clients are doing is doing less in adult information gathering. So I've had the conversation with my clients a lot this week that for me, it just boils down to the risk of you getting the disease. So if you are over the age of 70 or you have comorbidities that might be complications, like you've got breathing difficulties or you're very overweight or very unfit or you've got a history of smoking or something like that, the chances of you getting the disease mean that it might hit you quite hard. For the vast majority of the population, the chances of you getting the disease mean that you'll feel a bit crappy for a week. I can't say that with massive certainty because there are some cases of people who are younger than the age of 70 and don't have any comorbidities and they get hit with it really hard. But broadly speaking, that's a very small group. The disease is doing what we said it was always going to do on the whole, which is that people in the latter stages of their life are being hit very hard by this disease, and young, fit, healthy people tend to do pretty well with it. So for me, whether we go back out into the real world or not boils down to, is it massively dangerous for me to get the disease? Or am I likely to pass it on if I get COVID-19? Am I going to pass it on to somebody for whom it would be really dangerous? And that, I think, has got to be the first line of reasoning when it comes to us making decisions about how we come out of the lockdown. And I understand it's not simple. I understand it's incredibly complex for people when incomes are involved and people are losing money and struggling to make ends meet and things like that. And I'm not insensitive to that. But I do think what I see amongst some of my clients when the panic builds up is that our old stuff kind of steps in and takes over, and our grown-up stuff seems to go and sit on the back seat of the bus for a bit. And I guess what I really want to invite you guys to do is to understand that your grown-up stuff is going to need to come back to the front of the bus a little bit, and it's all right for your grown-up stuff to be a bit distressed, because what is going on right now is distressing, and it's distressing for pretty much everybody to some degree. So, I do hope you stay safe, make wise decisions about what you do, keep up your social distancing, and please don't give yourself a hard time for being impacted by what's going on. You're not alone.